Hi, Terry VanNoy. Welcome to Math Class with Terry V. Hope this video helps you out, and if you enjoy it, please share it, comment, or like it. And you can also go to my website, MathPowerLine.com. It's a math resource blog, lesson videos for students, and other resources for parents and teachers. Give me a call or go to my website or email. All right, let's go to today's lesson. There are several techniques we're going to go over, and this first one is going to be, this video here is factoring, but we can also in the future videos take a look at taking square roots, completing the square, or using the quadratic formula. Now mixed in will be problem sets where you get to try some of the things that I'll show you, and for extra practice you'll have some time to work it out on a piece of paper, and we'll see if you're right. At the very end we'll have a self-quiz so you can really see if you understand the concept well. Alright, let's get started. First of all, what is a quadratic equation? Well, the idea is quadratic equation is a second degree equation. Okay, that means that the x term, one of the x terms in the equation has a 2 exponent. It's to the second power. That means that on a graph, you're either going to have an upside down U shape called a parabola or a regular U-shape parabola. Okay. Now it could take many forms. You could have two x terms here and a constant term on the right, or maybe everything's moved over so that everything's equal to 0. That's a pretty common form of a quadratic equation. Or they might just be all kind of mixed up. Also, a lot of times it'll be y equals some kind of quadratic expression. Okay, then we're talking about functions, and it's also written f of x instead of y. So in all those different ways, we're still talking about the same thing, a quadratic equation. Alright, I'm going to show you some examples of how you solve this by factoring. Now the first clue here is that we want to make sure everything is on the same side. So notice in number 1 it says equals 20. Well, let's go ahead and get rid of that 20 by subtracting it on both sides. Now we have n squared plus n, which is really a 1n if you want to think about it that way, minus 20 equals 0. Okay, you want to have a 0 on the right hand side to start with. Then we want to factor it, so we're going to have two binomials here, and you know, remember that factoring in this way is the opposite of the FOIL method. I know that the n squared comes from n times n, and the negative 20 has to come from a positive and a negative set of terms. So let's just kind of do a factor list, and you might already know what the answer is, but let's give it a try. 20 is made from 1 times 20, or 2 times 10, or 4 times 5. Now the fact that it's a negative 20 and I have a positive and a negative set of terms in here means that we're going to have to subtract. So is there a way to subtract 1 and 20 or 2 and 10 or 4 and 5 to get positive 1 middle term? Yes, of course. We're going to have to use a 4 and a 5, and notice that the 5 would have to be positive, the 4 would have to be negative in order to make it come out right. Now that equals 0. Now at this point we have two different equations. These binomials represent numbers that multiply to give you 0. Now what's the only way to get 0 when you're multiplying? Well, if this first group is 0, or if the second group is 0, or both. So what we do is we split it up into two different equations. N plus 5 could be equal to 0, or n minus 4 could be equal to 0. Okay, we just have to solve two separate equations. Now to solve for n, we're going to subtract 5 on each side here, and we're going to add 4 on each side here. Now it's pretty easy, so you may not have to write this much, but I just want to kind of show the process. So n can be both negative 5 and positive 4. Now in some classes and textbooks, it might be shown in bracket formation. Alright, in other words, x can be a set of numbers, in this case a negative 5 and a positive 4. So you might see it written like that, just to kind of get used to that format. Let's look at number 2. Alright, we're going to get rid of the negative 21 on the right by adding 21 to each side. So now our quadratic equation becomes x squared minus 10x plus 21 equals 0. All right, well, let's factor it and see what we can figure out here. We want to look for factors of 21 that would add to a negative 10. Notice it's a positive 21, so we're going to have either 1 times 21 or 3 times 7. And I'm going to choose 3 times 7 because those would add up to 10. It happens, though, that they're both going to be negative. So x minus 3, x minus 7. Okay, now that equals 0, of course. And that gives us two separate equations. Either x minus 3 could be equal to 0, or x minus 7 could be equal to 0. We're going to add 3 to each side there, and just to speed it up, I'm going to go ahead and move right to the answer. X should be a positive 3 or a positive 7. All right, two answers for x. All right, let's try one more. We're going to start by adding 35 to each side, and so our quadratic is going to be set equal to 0, and we'd get a squared minus 12a plus 35 equals 0. All right, let's try to do some factoring here. A and a would be the first term in each binomial, of course, no problem there. And I need factors of 35 that add to 12. So I'm thinking 5 and 7, right? 5 and 7 would add up to 12. And notice how they would both have to be negative middle terms when I use the FOIL method. Okay, so negative 5 times negative 7 gives me my positive 35. And negative 5a with that product right there. And negative 7a with those outside terms right there would give me the negative 12a middle term. All right, so two little mini equations to solve. The a minus 5 group could be equal to 0, or the a minus 7 group could be equal to 0. That means a could be either positive 5 or positive 7. All right, that's solving a quadratic using factoring. Thanks for giving me some feedback and watching this video, and take care. All right, there you have it. I invite you to go to my website now, MathPowerLine.com, or email me or give me a call. The way I work best with students is live online in my classroom. So if I can help you in any way, answer some specific questions, the first lesson with me is free as I show you how everything works. All right, study hard and take care.